I am thirsty. Could there be a more utterly human sentence? During this season of Lent, we at Wisdom's Table have been reflecting on what it is that we are thirsty for. Many of us have even written down our various thirsts and put them in this tapestry of thirst. It's crammed full of our thirst. We thirst for peace and justice and reconciliation amid all the violence and oppression that drain us of life. There is apparently no shortage of thirst in this broken world. And for the 783 million people without access to clean water, that thirst is quite literal. I am thirsty. It's so utterly human, this sentence, that it's actually kind of surprising to hear it coming from Jesus. I mean, this is John's gospel that we're talking about here. And in John's gospel, Jesus usually comes off as anything but human. That's especially true in the way that John tells this passion story. In this gospel, Jesus not only exhibits superhuman composure when heading toward the cross, he actually orchestrates the whole thing. Did you notice? Jesus helps the police arrest him after they fall on the ground afraid. I told you I'm the guy you're looking for. Get up. We got stuff to do. Yeah, and he carries his own cross to Golgotha. No helper needed here. Sorry, Simon of Cyrene. You got to find another gospel. Yeah, and on top of everything, Pilate seats him on the judge's bench in the Roman court, giving the clear wink nudge that he's not really the one on trial here. No, he is the judge of all. This crucifixion in this gospel is not really framed as a tragedy. Instead, it's framed as Christ's hour of glory. Which is why it is so shocking that this more than human child of God speaks these utterly human words. I am thirsty. Now, John, of course, is quick to explain this away. He puts his own commentary in parentheses. It wasn't because Jesus was actually thirsty that he said this, but he did so in order to fulfill the scriptures. Namely, Psalm 69. They gave me poison for food, and for my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. So those around the cross comply, snatching the nearest liquid, which, wouldn't you know it, is vinegar. Okay, John, we get it. Prophecy fulfilled. But for my part, I'm not quite so sure that fulfilling a prophecy is really what Jesus is thirsty for. I think what Jesus is really thirsty for is actually something greater. Greater than a beverage, yes, but greater even than fulfilling the scriptures. I think what Jesus is really thirsting for is God. Think about it. The way John tells the story, Jesus was once a part of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Remember that? And in the beginning, God yearned to be at home with his people. God longed so deeply to be united with us that God's own heart broke in two out of sheer longing for us. So God decided, in a stroke of divine creativity, to wrap up a piece of that broken heart in human flesh and to send it to the world. Jesus came from God so that God could be at home with us. Jesus came from God so that God could forever be united with us. Jesus came from God so that God could quench her deep thirst to be one with us, her beloved people. That is the great work Jesus was sent to accomplish. And that work is now complete. So when this more than human child of God speaks those utterly human words, I believe that right there, in those moments before his death, what Jesus is really thirsting for is to be reunited with the one who sent him. He is thirsting for his sweet homecoming with God, his Father in heaven. And he knows that homecoming will be here soon.
Yes.
It's so close, in fact, that he can taste it, like water on his dry tongue. I am thirsty, he says, and he endures sour wine to fulfill the scriptures. But what he is really longing for is God. Perhaps then what we can hear in his three dry words is our own thirst for God. Perhaps we can hear in his three dry words our own desire to be united with God. And perhaps we can also hear something else. Perhaps we can also hear in those same three words God's longing to be with us. Maybe the cross is the very place where our thirst for God and God's thirst for us converge. Our human thirst for God and God's holy thirst for us coming together. They're bound up together on this terrible and good